Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to look at some cards from, well, Paradise Dragona in Japan. What is going to end up being Surging Sparks over here. And we got ourselves a new Ace Spec, which is frankly pretty exciting. And we've got ourselves a new Secret Rare, which is frankly pretty exciting. And we're going to start off with the new Ace Spec, because this is one of those ones that kind of confuses me, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Now, what we've got is Energy Search Pro. And when I call it Energy Search Pro, you can probably kind of guess the kind of thing it's going to do. It lets you search your deck for any number of basic energy of different types, reveal them, and put them into your hand. And also, you might notice there's no fairy energy on the card. That is not a coincidence. But potentially searching for 8 basic energy? Yeah. That's why it's an Ace Spec. Like, the fact that we got 8 basic energy coming out, that is an absolutely ridiculous card. Like, everybody really wants Professor's Letter back. We're not getting Professor's Letters back. It's too good. It's too good a card. It's just not happening. And that let you search for 2 basic energy. This lets you search for potentially up to 8. What's the downside? Well, I've already told you. They've all got to be different types. And the reality is, the vast majority of people, by which I mean literally everyone, isn't playing all 8 kinds of basic energy in their deck. That would be absolutely absurd. So the question then becomes, well, alright then, what can use this, and are they going to be willing to play this over other Ace Specs? Now, there is an obvious one here, and we might as well go for it. It's Grafaiai. The one that came around in Paldea Evolved. We had the wonderful Kato artwork rare, illustration rare, and for what it's worth, there was a shiny version in Paldean Fates as well. It's a cool card. And it's got the attack Colourful Graffiti. Lets you discard as many basic energy cards as you like from your hand, dealing 40 for each type of basic energy you discarded in this way. Well, clearly this is busted with Grafaiai. Go and search for 8 different kinds of basic energy, do 320 damage, job's a good 'un. Except 320 won't actually KO everything. Like Charizard, for instance, sits over 330, you're 10 damage away. And fine, sure, it's only 10 damage, but you've just used your Ace Spec to search for 8 different types of basic energy, and you've gone and discarded all 8 of them, and you're still 10 damage away from a KO. And the reason why Grafaiai isn't actually a real legitimate thing here is because it's a one-shot deal. Sure, you'll get one big attack using this, and then that's it. You're not going to get this rolling again. So, yeah. That's not actually going to work. And there are other Pokemon that generally like to play rainbow decks. Smeargle is one of them. We had the Smeargle from Evolving Skies. Lets you reveal any number of basic energy from your hand, and it dealt 30 more for each type of basic energy revealed in this way. So if you held 8 different types of basic energy in your hand, this would essentially do 270. Which is not enough. That, there's 10 damage away from a Lugia, for instance, or 10 damage away from a Pidgeot, so it's still actually hitting a really annoying number, but that would be just revealing them from your hand, so you could potentially do this turn after turn on a basic Pokemon. And we'll all just pretend that Ino isn't in the format, because a single Ino would completely ruin this plan, so let's just pretend that never happens. And while we're here, we also need to pretend that Smeargle didn't rotate out, because obviously Evolving Skies has rotated. But my point is, that's the kind of card that would look at an Ace Spec like this and get very, very excited. The other rainbow Pokemon is the actual rainbow Pokemon, which is Ho-Oh. These are the kind of Pokemon I'm going through now that generally like playing lots and lots and lots of different types of energy in their deck. And we do have the Ho-Oh V from Silver Tempest, which has not yet rotated, and has phenomenal artwork by Akira Igawa. which for 4 energy does 100, plus 30 for each type of basic energy attached to this Pokemon. But we don't have a good way to accelerate the energy. We've got the ability that lets you attach 4 basic energy from your discard pile to it, and ends your turn. Great turn 1 going first when you're not allowed to attack anyway. Basically garbage at every other point of the game. So if we've got a Grafaiai that's only good for 1 turn, we don't have a Smeargle and we don't have a Ho-Oh, and those are the 3 Pokemon that generally like playing lots of different types of energy, that kind of tells me we just don't have a use for it. I've seen people suggesting stuff like Tinkaton EX, for instance, because it just puts 8 cards in your hand, so it's plus 240 damage on Tinkaton, but I'm not using this to just go and get 8 cards out of my deck. I really don't think that's a great use for this. And my problem here is very simple. This seems like a very powerful card, and I just don't think we have a use for it right now. I don't think there is a deck around right now that is actually going to use this. But I'm going to give you one which might just be Hopium, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Ceruledge EX. The one that was in its EX deck was actually out now in Japan. Because for a single fire energy, it does 30 damage, plus 20 more for each energy card in your discard pile. Now, you could actually use this to get 8 energy out of your deck, and then go and discard them. But there's so many problems with this. Firstly, you'd have to play 7 non-fire energy in your deck, which you're probably not going to want to do. Secondly, you've got to hope none of the 7 are prized, and I'm sorry, but the stats say at least one of them is going to end up being prized. And then you've got to have a way to discard them. And honestly, if you're going to do that, just play the Ace Spec from the Ceruledge deck. It just lets you discard 5 cards from your deck. Now, I know that's 5 and not 8, but it just discards them straight away, and you don't need to play 7 useless energies in your deck, and you don't need to get them in your hand and then discard them, alright? Yes, I know this kind of works with Ceruledge, and I want it to work, but it's not going to work with Ceruledge. It's going to be way too awkward. Don't do it. Just play Perfect Mixer, okay? Perfect Mixer is a better option here, so play that instead. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and give this between 3 and 4 Wassies, but the reality... We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. But the reality of the situation here is, right now, this card's kind of terrible. There's no use for it. But there is so much potential, and there could be a use in the future, at which point this becomes at least a 4 Wassie card, and that's where we are. It is a bad card right now. There is no good use for it. But there could be a use for it in the future, so... yeah, I'm going to leave that one up to you guys. For now, I've told you about that, but I promised you we'd also look at a secret rare, so let's look at a secret rare as well. Let's put the regular and the illustration rare up on the screen at the same time. We've got ourselves Castform Sunny Form, and the fact that this card is being shown pretty late in the video might give you a little bit of a hint as to how good and playable and fantastic I think this card actually is. I love the artwork. I love that it's one of these cards that they've done the thing that I think they should always do on illustration rares for Pokemon like this. Hey, there's a bunch of different Castform. Let's just get them all up on the screen at the same time. Yeah, let's do that. I adore this. I think it's brilliant. I think it is the only really good way to do a Castform alternate art like this. I think it's wonderful. I think the art is stunning, and I think the card is kind of rubbish. Sorry. We've got single energy, burn. No damage, just burn. Although that then will do like at least 20 damage. But that's not the point. It's just burn. And then we've got 2 energy, 50 damage. And you may move all energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. But it only does 50. Now, if this did 70, I could make an argument. And the argument would be this. You play this with Magma Basin, which is going to rotate out pretty soon, but is not actually yet rotated. You play this with Magma Basin, and then turn 1, you attach to this. You Magma Basin onto it. So you've got 2 energy on this turn 1, and you take the 20 damage, but it doesn't really matter. You take a KO on an evolving Pokemon or a support Pokemon, but then you move the energy to the bench. So when this inevitably gets KO because it's got 50 HP remaining, you haven't lost the energy. That's the argument for Castform, Sunny Form. And it would be a good argument if it did 70 damage. But it doesn't do 70 damage. It does 50 damage. 50 damage isn't enough. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I want this to be really good. I want to get very excited about this. I want this to be a really nice card because I do think the artwork on the old art especially is stunning. And even the regular art's kind of nice. But the reality is, it's got an attack whereby you don't do enough damage, and then after not doing enough damage, you move the energy off. So you've gone to all this effort to get all the energy on, or, well, okay, you've Magma Based them, but still, and then you just lose it and you've not done anything but a bit of setup damage. This is not good enough for a bit of setup damage. I'm giving it 3 Wassies because you can still use this to do a bit of setup damage and then move the energy off, so when you get KO'd, you don't lose the energy. But I think it's 20 damage too short. If this did 70, I'd be into it. It doesn't. I'm not. I'm sorry. But look, I promised you a new Ace Spec, and I delivered. I promised you a new Secret Rare, and I delivered. And even if it's not playable, it is beautiful. So we have at least got that. So now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these in the comment section. Can you find a use for Energy Search Pro? Can you find an argument for playing Castform? Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely Uncle Poker Peter, who's been a supporter of ours for a long time now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.